Hi, I'm Jenelle Riley, Variety's Deputy Awards and Feature Editor, and I'm so thrilled to be here today to speak with some of the incredible cast from the drama series 1923. We have so much to discuss, so please join me in welcoming our guests. We have Aminah Nieves, who plays Teonna Rainwater, Jennifer Ehle, who plays Sister Mary, Sebastian Roché, who plays Father Renaud, and Leenah Robinson, who plays Baapuxti. Thank you all so much for being here, and congratulations on a great first season, continuing the tale of the Dutton family as seen in Yellowstone in 1883. Like those shows, 1923 was created, produced, and written by Taylor Sheridan, who is such an amazing storyteller. I'm curious for each of you, how did the project come to your way, and what was it about your character or the story that made you want to be a part of 1923? And let's start with Aminah.
I think the project came in the beautiful way that it always does in this world that we live in as actors. But, the first time I read the script, I was just kind of blown away with the authenticity, and not that he wasn't shying away from, what Native peoples have gone through. So I was immediately drawn to it, and also scared at the same time for obvious reasons. You're uprooting all of this trauma, and you want to make sure you honor everyone correctly, and yourself and your family. And but we're here, and I am like with all these beautiful faces that you see on the screen, and we're doing it, and it's an honor. And yeah, did I answer the question?
Yes. And I heard that even just for the audition, you actually learned Crow, just for the audition. Why was it so important that you speak the language fluently before even getting the part?
Well, Indigenous languages, especially in Turtle Island, they've become kind of non-existent in a sense. I mean, so many have become unremembered because of assimilation, because of forced assimilation. So being able to speak a native language, which Crow actually, I think they have the highest population of native speakers, which is about 80%. To be able to speak a native language is extremely important, especially for our youth, to continue that desire and curiosity to hold on to your culture and to your people, and also I believe to the land, because the land sings with you. And it's very important to remember everything, to uproot everything, and to continue on with your stories as Indigenous peoples.
And Leenah, for you, can you talk about how the project came your way?
Well, like Aminah said, like how every actor kind of gets auditions these days, it's just kind of like through agents or managers. But when I first read it, I was kind of in the same boat as Aminah of like, oh my God, this isn't just like a watered down version of these schools. It was this, like I guess I could say like a culmination of like all of my trauma, which was scary. It was really scary. But in that sense, it was more powerful to be able to portray this young woman and to, be able to tell this story. And yeah, in terms of learning Crow, it was hard, especially when, we only had the written version and then an audio thing. So it was like going back and forth between like, is this what they said? I don't know if this is what they said. And then for the audition process, like with, meeting Taylor and stuff, it was even more scary because you're doing it in front of the guy who wrote the show. But on set, yeah, we had some of the best teachers. So yeah.
And Sebastian, for you, what interested you in this project?
Well, first and foremost, I'd watched everything that Taylor Sheridan had done, from Sicario to Hell and High Water to Wind River to the whole of Yellowstone, and I think I willed this project. I willed it, absolutely, because I really wanted to be part of his universe, and I'd auditioned for another character. It hadn't worked out, and Father Renaud, landed on my lap, and even though the character is controversial and extremely extremely violent and borderline psychopathic. It was a character that was extremely well written. And eventually, the audition came to me. I put it on tape, sent it, and it worked out. And as I was doing it, I felt that it had worked out. Sometimes you feel that the role sort of sticks to you. The writing is so brilliant that it just felt right, even though the content was so severe. But yeah, that's how I did it. But I willed myself onto that project. I truly believe that, then I started working with these extraordinary people, which was really a blessing, truly a blessing.
I love that you were a fan of the Taylor Sheridan cinematic universe coming in. That's amazing.
Sicario, when I saw Sicario, I thought to myself, because I really am, writing is incredibly important to me. I thought, who wrote this extraordinary piece of fiction? And then I went on to become a fan, and then I saw that he had his own, Yellowstone universe, and loved it. But 1923 has a scope that is beyond that. It's there's a sort of Hemingway quality to the project. So it made it all the more worthwhile to be part of this. And the people involved in it were extraordinary. So yeah, it was truly wonderful to be a part of it.
And Jennifer, for you, were you a fan of Taylor's work coming into this?
I did not know about it. But I read I put myself on tape for it. I read the sides, and I was like, yeah, no, I'd like to do this for an afternoon. And so I did, and it was so much fun. It was so much fun to delve into her and to and that language, like Sebastian said, the language is so, I don't know, it's theatrical, and but it's always, the narrative is so strong, and the characters, the stakes are so high, and it was really fun. Aminah's seen pictures of it, but I put a turtleneck on my head backwards, like so that, and just like tied it behind me with a scrunchie, and kind of tried to make myself look like a nun, and I just had a really wonderful time. Just I sometimes really love putting on myself on tape if it's something you really want, and it can be so much fun just to play. It's kind of like, playing like a kid, and it can be quite liberating. And so it was really fun. It was really fun to do that. And I was thrilled. I got it. Absolutely thrilled. And then I met Aminah, and then and then I met Leenah, and then I met Sebastian, and it just got better and better.
Yeah, I have to say it's really weirding me out seeing you all be so nice to each other, because your scenes together are so riveting and tense.
I mean, I'll speak for everyone. Love runs so deep, and I think that's why it works, because we all respect and honor one another so much. And we give each other the tenderness and the safety that was needed to do this.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I couldn't have done, I cannot imagine what it would have been like if I hadn't had the gift of working opposite somebody who was okay with us going there, and felt that it was important to do this. I can't quite imagine. It certainly would have been different. I mean, we would have done it, but it would have been very, very different. But Aminah and Leenah both are so, it's clearly so important to both of you, and you're both such extraordinary actors, and it was really exciting to work with them. Yeah,
I concur. It really was. It really was an extraordinary experience, because we come in from the outside in, and having done the research, the terrifying research on residential schools, and of course knowing Native Americans' plight over hundreds of years. It was really, we had such an extraordinary communication with both actors. They're such really brave and extraordinarily open actors, and in scenes that are incredibly difficult to perform. Not only that, we're recreating history. This is not gratuitous violence. This is historical violence that we're recreating. And I'm sure that it was extreme. I can't speak for them, but I'm sure that it was extremely difficult for them to go through that sort of recreating trauma. And I have to admit that it was the relationships that we had. We were very, very close, I think. Even though we were performing, we were recreating this trauma, we were extremely close, and I listened, I would listen and see the bravery of their performances. It was really riveting to watch. It was so seamless, to work together, because I think that there was a heightened sense of sensitivity and because of the material. So yeah, it was a rare experience, really. I'm so thankful for it.
And the story of the forced assimilation of Indigenous people is not one that's really been told very often on screen. I know you had two consultants, Mo Brings Plenty and Bertie Realbird, who advised on the show. Aminah and Leenah, can you talk about working with them and the research and prep you put into these roles? I don't know. I'm embarrassed to say I knew very little about this subject before watching this show, and was, shocked and appalled to realize how accurate it was.
No, don't feel bad. At least you're learning it now, and it's, you can't really change what happened, so don't feel bad at all. Working with Mo, it was like having my dad on set, and I don't want to cry because I always cry talking about it, but episode 5, when we filmed my last scene, I remember going to set, and I was like, kind of like at that point of like, I'm almost gonna cry because I know it's my last day on set and it's my last, but I think immediately when I saw Mo, I gave him a hug, and then just waterworks. I was bawling my eyes out, and yeah, he was a rock. He was the most supportive person ever. I'm very lucky and grateful to be able to have met him and Bertie. And when we were trying to learn Crow, Bertie would say a word in Crow, and we'd say it exactly like how she said it. And she'd go, "No, it's this way," and then change it on us. So that was a lot of fun. I really do miss them, and I'm just very lucky and very, very happy to have experienced them.
Yeah, I think I love you. I love you very much. And I just want to expand on that too. I mean, Mo Brings Plenty and Bertie Realbird, they're a dream team and a dream to work with, because they're so particular and about getting it right and making sure that we're representing our communities to the T. And for me, that was just like I was so thankful, because that was something I was really nervous about going into it. But when you meet them, it's like, oh my God, thank you. It's like they're just so meticulous, and they were there every single day. They're there every single day that we were on set, and they're praying and they're singing, and they're right next to us when we get off, and just holding us down. And I think having elders there with you, as well as everyone a part of the production, which were just love bugs and were very sensitive and tender to what we're moving through, was a blessing. And Mo and Bertie made sure to hold that space and to hold everyone accountable too on set. So I give so much thanks to them, and I'm so grateful to the two of them.
I really want to talk about the friendship between your characters, because it's sort of this ray of light through some of these really difficult scenes. Why was it important to show that friendship, and how much did that sort of mirror how you felt about each other off screen?
It's important because I think, when you go to when we were forced to go, when our communities were forced to go to these governmental schools, I think right from the very moment they're stripped of their childhood. So to be able to see these subtle, sweet moments of sisterhood and of family between Teonna and Baapuxti is extremely important, because so many of our elders here and who have passed don't remember a childhood. So that bit of sweetness definitely resonates on and off screen. I mean, this is my sister for life, and no one can ever try to take her away from me, because I will fight. This is like my everything. And honestly, it was always you as Baapuxti. You know, I'm about to get emotional, but I couldn't have done any of this, Leenah, without you, and I mean that from the bottom of my heart.
I'm gonna cry.
It's true. I mean, when we shot that scene with Leenah, that fateful scene that I shot, Aminah was there on set all the way, all the time, you know, and she was so supportive. They were they're sisters. It's true. It was really beautiful to watch the incredible support. You know, it was really, really very touching and you know, a real lesson. I found that quite beautiful, actually.
We do fight like sisters too. We fight like sisters.
I'm sure.
Yeah, I didn't expect it at all. It was just everything that I needed in this life. And like, I remember when I first got it too, like a day after, immediately I saw that she was calling me on Instagram, and then I pick up and then she's like, I can't use the vulgar words that she used, but she was very happy that I was Baapuxti. And I think since day one, it's been attached at the hips, you know, running around on set, wreaking havoc. And, you know, I honestly would not change a single thing. And in terms of like the scenes that we were doing and, you know, just showing that kind of sisterhood, yes, Teonna is this unmovable force, you know, she will not be silenced or put into this box. And but I think my character and her character is just, you can't do it alone. You know, you need to have that support, and it's just so important that family is there, and whatever it may be, it's there, and it's so beautiful.
And Sebastian and Jennifer, I've heard many actors say that when they're playing a character who might be viewed as villainous, they can't think of their characters as evil. They're complicated or misunderstood. How did you view your characters, and is it a challenging headspace to be in doing those scenes?
Go ahead, Jen.
Well, I don't know. I probably shouldn't admit to this, but I don't really believe that you have to like your character, or that you have to kind of, you know, I don't. And I certainly don't like her. And I think if you're playing, I mean, she's it's complicated, but I think for this, it can be a lot of fun playing a baddie. It can be great fun, you know, some of the most fun. And this wasn't fun because it was based on real trauma and real crimes and you know, horrendous abuse that actually happened. And so it wasn't fun. But no, I certainly didn't find a way to, you know, to like her at all. I do recognize, I think it's beautifully written by Taylor that you do see that she is also living in a you know, a system, a very abusive system. And obviously, arguably, they're all brainwashed. So, but it's still, I still didn't forgive her and don't intend to try.
Yeah. So it's okay that I cheered when she gets killed.
Yeah, same.
It's so satisfying.
I myself struggled a lot with the character, as complex, and you can find any complexity in a character. You struggle with, when I read the script and I started seeing what I was about to do, it was a real struggle. At first, you want to sort of build a character that's enjoyable to you, but mirroring Jennifer, it's true. There was very little that I've made a career playing bad guys that were truly in the realm of fiction, but we're recreating history. It's hard to watch, but it's harder to ignore. It's history that is very necessary. It's a story that is very necessary to be told, and you are the sort of instrument of death. You're the instrument of torture. It was hard to wrap my head around it, and I sort of asked my forgiveness every time before doing a scene, and before we did the scene with Leenah, I had a sudden surge of unbelievable emotion. I don't think I could have done the scene if I hadn't asked forgiveness before doing the scene, because I couldn't. I held it in. I don't know if you didn't see it, but I became unbelievably, it's never happened to me before on a movie set, and I became unbelievably emotional. Not to excuse anything, but I needed to excuse the character before I was about to do the scene, because when you're recreating history, it is very traumatic, especially when you have Mo Brings Plenty, Birdie, Leenah, Aminah around, and all these young women who are there. It's a very, very painful process. So I can't say I like the character. I enjoy my relationship with my actors immensely. I mean, when I knew it was Jennifer Ehle, I was like, oh my God, I can't believe I'm a huge fan of Jennifer's. She's an extraordinary artist, and I discovered, it's so wonderful when you discover young actors who are extraordinary artists. It's really beautiful. And I love that as an older actor, seeing our future, and so in that respect, I truly enjoyed working with them. But it's hard for me to forgive my character still. He's still around, so no spoilers, but it's the toughest character I've ever had to play, by far.
I heard that you would apologize preemptively to your cast members before shooting some scenes. Was it every scene?
No, not every scene. It was just that moment that was just so loaded. We all knew what was going to happen, and I think Leenah as well. It was not only was it difficult for Leenah because it was, she had so much joy working on the show, but it was her last day as well, and it's an emotional thing when it's your last day as an actor. You're leaving a family, and also, I mean, the subject matter was so painful, just so that, I had to burst my own abscess. Maybe it was a bit selfish of me, but I don't know why, I just had to do it. I couldn't not do it. I had to clear the air, and then we went on, and it worked, I think it worked beautifully. And Leenah did such an incredibly brave work. It's just so, I was really in awe of both Aminah and Leenah, really, truly. And, Jennifer and I agreed to that. It's wonderful. We're doing this, not only because we're artists, but we're doing this for a reason. People will know about this, like I suddenly realized what the Tulsa massacre was by watching Watchmen, so in a way, our art form is informing people, however many people, but I think it's an important thing to talk about. Yeah.
And Aminah, your character goes through so much in the first season, but she never loses her resilience. I'm curious about charting the emotional journey. Were you filming chronologically, or at least chronologically by episode? Did you know from scene to scene sort of where she had to be?
We were shooting in 2 episode, worlds. So it wasn't chronological to the scenes, but so we were flipping between, I think we did a lot of episode 2 like the first week and then went back, or no, we did episode, it was everywhere. But so it was a lot of I did have to take notes and make sure like, okay, we're doing this today, but we're also gonna, go into the past in 3 weeks. So it was a little difficult at times. But honestly, I think because when you're doing something of this magnitude and you're doing it and you're telling a true story and you're there honoring your people and non-native peoples, not only in the Americas, but even beyond. I think that the moment you step on set and the moment you're met with action, you just go. And I think everyone kind of flows through you at once. And the moment you put yourself in those shoes, and I mean, the sets too were incredible. It was scary how good they were. It was scary how transformative it felt the moment you stepped on set. So it was difficult, yes, and it was also not, in a sense, accessing that emotion, I guess. It hurt to access it, but it kind of just came out. Like I had no choice. It just did.
And Leenah, I heard you were actually very protective of Aminah on sets. I don't know if that was just something natural and instinctual, or, if you just were sort of looking out for her.
Well, it's hard when you see your sister kind of going through all of these like really, really kind of intense scenes and brutal scenes. And, I think this is what my dad was saying. My dad was saying it's good to do these kinds of things, but it's also hard when the ancestors don't know telling a story from real, so it was hard because, we'd be like, okay, I know this is fake. I know this is like controlled environment, but the screams don't sound fake. And to be doing that for 8 to 16 hours a day for filming, it does something to you. And I remember when we were doing the cafeteria scene, and there was stunt nuns, which is fun for me to say that. But yeah, there was like nuns who were stunt women, and Jennifer and Carrie O'Malley, who played Sister Alice. But there wasn't a lot of, kind of rehearsal of, who's going to do this, who's going to do that, pinning Aminah down. It was just so much, and it all happened so fast. And because it was just so chaotic, and, you couldn't hear cut. So Ben had yelled cut, and then everybody was still on Aminah, and I don't know if it was just me, but I could just tell like she wanted to get out. So, I just immediately ran up and just started pulling nuns off of her. But like I said, it's hard to see your sister going through that. It's hard to see, somebody that you love. And like I said, like I know it's pretend, but the ancestors and the energy doesn't sometimes get that. So.
And your body doesn't always know the difference. Putting it through trauma.
Yeah.
No, it's true. I that same scene, because I was on the ground and Aminah was on the table, and there were nuns wailing on her, and Aminah, and you're so extraordinary, the sound coming out of you, and you're fighting, and it was so visceral, the pain and the trapped, and your head went back over the table, and I put my hands out and like caught your head, which is not what my nun would have done. But yes, no, that was definitely, and Leenah was right there, as soon as Ben said cut, pulling off nuns. It's true.
I think we can get into a little bit of spoiler territory, because I feel like everyone has seen this show. And obviously it's been picked up for a second season. So I just sort of want to ask Aminah and Sebastian, without giving anything away, what do you think is in store for your characters?
After you, Aminah.
hope that Teonna is able to go back to her reservation, at least step a foot there, because I think for her, when she does get away, I think that will just give her a little bit more, it'll help her not realize, but being able to go back to the res, even if it's just a pass through on the way to somewhere that is safer, I think is important, because it gives her the opportunity to understand how strong she is and what she is actually doing for herself, for her people, and for the future of her community. So I hope that happens. I don't know if it will. Most likely will not, but I'm praying she at least gets to, put a toe there for a second, just for her own heart. There is like a little kiss there too, which is interesting. I was not keen on that boy kiss, but Teonna needs a nice touch that doesn't want to hurt her anymore. And I think that was very sweet. Who knows what's gonna happen? I don't have spoilers. I'm talking out my ass right now. I don't know.
It's the same with me. I have no idea. Of course, there are things that you think about, and I mean, the one thing I would wish is for him to suddenly realize his mistake, to suddenly see the light. I don't think it's possible with that character, because he's sort of a very extreme. He's not actually extreme. A lot of Catholic priests were like that. If you do your history, if you look back, and we're not talking about only schools. If you look back in history, Catholics have perpetrated the most horrifying things upon people, not only their own people, but in colonialism and in wanting to basically impose their religion on people who didn't want to. I have very strong opinions about that, but I'm not going to talk about them. The thing is, I don't want any salvation for his character. I want to see. I'm interested to see where his character is going to go, and if there will be a final confrontation with Teonna, which I suspect. I don't know, but you never know with Taylor. Actually, you never know, which is what makes his writing really interesting. But I would love for him to see suddenly, to see the light, even though he can stay as abominable as he has been. But it would be interesting for him to go, I was wrong. That's all. That's a character thing that would be interesting to me. But I have no idea either. I'm on my way. We're going to be on the train, I think, and we're going after Teonna, the formidable Teonna, who's been extremely formidable. Yeah.
Well, I can't wait to see what's next. I want to thank you all again so much for joining us today, and remind everyone that 1923 is available to binge exclusively on Paramount Plus. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.